Hey Maker, in this video I'm going to walk you through how I edit this photo inside of Affinity Photo 2. This image is part of a shoot I did from start to finish. It is a 5-video series and you can grab the link below to check out how I developed this concept, styled this product, lit the scene, and took this photo with my iPhone. So make sure you check out the whole series by grabbing the link below this video in the description. So we're going to jump right into Affinity Photo 2 here. I have uploaded the image that I want to edit. The first thing we're going to do is go over here and make a copy of this background. So we're going to duplicate the background. That allows us to have an extra copy that creates non-destructive editing. So essentially we always have an original version of this photo. The first step I like to always take is to go ahead and crop the image, straighten the image if that needs to be done. So we're going to go over here to the left. Now, anytime we go to this left panel of tools, you do want to make sure that you have your background selected. I went ahead and turned this background here off. So we're going to select this background. As I mentioned, anytime you use any of these tools over here, you want to make sure you have this background selected. So the first tool we're going to go to over here is the crop tool. We're going to select that. And let's just, for the sake of this edit, let's say we're going to be using this image on Etsy. So my recommendation right now is a 4:3 on Etsy. This has actually been my recommendation for years. Etsy is still displaying your images in 3 different aspect ratios. I find that using 4:3 while keeping your product in that kind of square crop is going to be the most versatile option. So I already have this set up here as a 4:3. So you can tell I've got a little bit of outside scene over here, but for the most part, I already framed this image kind of the way that I wanted to frame it. This is more of a style type photo showing the product in a conceptual kind of scene. It's slice of summer. We're just inspiring all of the scents and everything that comes with the smell of this candle. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this in really just till we get past that point of the background not being there. And then I want to make sure that this ends up being centered. So we're going to use our grid and we are going to pull this side a little bit to make sure we have kind of even space throughout here. So it allows the product to actually be centered. And then I'm going to select, hit enter. So we've completed our crop. The next thing I like to kind of go in and do is adjust brightness and contrast. So going down here to this adjustments tab and we select brightness and contrast, and I'm going to increase the brightness just a little bit and then the contrast a tiny bit more. So brightness is going to lighten the overall scene. Contrast is going to, if we go real far here, you see a very distinct difference in the darks and lights in the scene. We just want to do it a little bit here. I'm going to go about at a 6. Okay, and then we can X out of that. And we're going to go back to our adjustments. And the next thing I want to focus on is white balance. So with white balance, we're going to go warmer, cooler, and then we have green and pink with our tint, pink, magenta. So this is supposed to be an outdoor scene. I used a pretty true to color white balance when I shot this. So I want to make it a little bit warmer. So I think I'm going to bump it up. Let's look at a 5. And what you can do to kind of see the back and forth, you can go over here and actually turn this adjustment layer off. So that is where it's off, and this is with the white balance applied. I'm not going to mess with the tint. Sometimes when you have a lot of green in your photo, it can lean, but again, we're supposed to be outdoors. We've got kind of the green reflection from the grass and the trees. We've got the warmth from the sun. So this is going to kind of emulate more of that concept. And because I'm doing this as more of a, styled, we're going to really inspire and ignite the senses. I'm not focusing so much in this edit to make the product as true to real life as possible. So there might be some variation because we're adding a little bit creativity, adding a little more creativity to this image. This was a creative shoot, so we want that final image to have a lot of creativity in it as well. The next thing we're going to do is actually focus a little bit on the candle label here. We obviously have a lot of light coming in on the left side. It's washing out the label here a little bit. I want to make sure that we're getting everything as true to color as possible. So what I'm actually going to do is I want to bring the darks down a little bit. So make the blacks a little more black. So I went to adjustments. I'm selecting the curves option. When you look at this curves tool, essentially we got all of our highlights. This is the tonal range of our image. So black's over here, white's over here, and all the other colors in between. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little dot here and bring these blacks down. I am solely focusing on the label right now, and I'm going to show you how we're going to apply the edit to just the label here in a second. Pull this down. I want to make it a little darker, but then I also want to go ahead and make sure our white letters are still popping and really standing out. So what we're creating is kind of this S-looking curve, so it goes up here and then down, and that's going to give us a little more contrast. So it's bringing those darks down, increasing the whites, again, focusing solely on the actual label here. Now what we're going to do with curves adjustment selected, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to add a mask layer to it. Right now, this is still, whole image has this adjustment applied to it. What we're going to do is click on that mask layer, and I am going to use Command I, and essentially that's going to reverse it, and it's going back to what this looked like before we made the adjustment. So now what I want to do is grab my brush, and I'm on a Mac, so a shortcut is just to hit B, but you can come over here and just grab see how it has a B next to it? You can just select it that way as well. Now, I know I mentioned at the beginning of this training that if we're going to use any of these tools over here, we want to have the background selected, but right now we're working with the mask layer, so we're going to stay on that layer there. So we've got our brush. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little. I'm just using Command plus to do that. We want to zoom into our label. And I'm going to make my brush a little bigger for a minute here. Double click on this. I'm going to do to about a 50. And we're going to come in and get these edges quick. Okay. And what we want to do is we want to make sure the white, so down here, we want to make sure that the white is set to our foreground. So that would be, I can't see past my little video here, what it's saying. So we don't want to set the white as the background. We want it to be the foreground. So this is forward. That is backwards. So we want it to be white. White is what it's going to do is it's going to apply that edit. And we're not going to see a huge difference, but the first thing I'm going to do, see how the color shifted a little bit? I'll show you the before and after. But I'm just going to use a smaller brush. And I do have my opacity set to 100 because I want to see the full edit. Really, it's mostly going to be super noticeable this way. And then we're going to make the brush a little bit bigger. Go ahead and do 100. I'll go a little bit more than that. And then we're going to come in here and we're just going to brush over the entire label. You may not be noticing a huge difference right now, but I'll toggle it on and off here in a minute and you'll be able to see it, okay? So that is with it off and this is with it on. So it's just a real minor difference, but it kind of like cleans it up a little bit. And then we're going to focus on this side here. So with this side, I want to use what's called a burn tool, and it's essentially just going to darken it a little bit. But to apply that tool, we do need to go to this background here. So we got to go back to our background layer. We're going to go to this little thing that looks like fire. So burn is going to darken. I'm actually going to make this a little bigger as well. I like the opacity there. Hardness, we'll keep about there. Hardness is going to be like the defining edges. So we want our edges to be a little soft so you can see here, see how that's darker? And we're just going to kind of go down. And this is one of those things, the more you go over it, the darker it's going to get. I still want to leave a little bit of that light look on it because the light is hitting from that side and we don't want to really erase that concept. We just don't want it to be so washed out looking is my goal here. Try to fix this line we've got going kind of down through here. Okay, now see how you can see that line? We're gonna undo that and I'm gonna adjust the hardness, even the opacity a little bit. So the opacity is, it's not gonna apply the edit as hard. Okay, and that looks a lot more natural. You can't actually see the line. Okay. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually use the clone tool and get rid of some of these like speckles that we have in here, just some dust and stuff that's on there, and fix this. I think it was a fingerprint. Like I think I may have had some oil on my finger. So again, we need the background selected to do this. We're going to go to the clone tool here. And we're going to select a spot that, you know, we want to clone. We want to find something similar in color so it flows well. I'm going to hit the option and then I'm going to click my mouse to select that point and just kind of brush over. There we go. Click that spot. You can click, you can kind of brush, but we're just kind of softening. The opacity is kind of low on this, but that's okay because we don't want, if we had the opacity too high, we'd be able to like see the stamp of the clone. So just be mindful of that. So anytime you're seeing like hard edges, like the edges of something, or it's really distinct that you've done something, typically lowering the opacity or reducing the hardness is going to help in that scenario. Okay, let's go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. And we're going to go in here and just option select next to that. We're going to tap over some of these, and I am going to increase my opacity here a little bit. I'm gonna be mindful, I gotta create a selection point. Just getting some of these little dust particles, cleaning it up nice and good. I don't know what that is, a little strip of something there. Okay. So now we're gonna zoom out. So I'm doing Command and the minus. Okay. So that still has, you know, a little bit of light hitting this side. So this side's lighter than this side, but it's not as washed out looking. The next thing we're going to do is go back to our adjustments, and we're going to selectively adjust some of the colors in this image. We have a lot of beautiful, wonderful colors. As I mentioned before, this is kind of a super creative, fun, inspirational type photo. So we're really going to make those colors pop. So we're actually going to go to HSL, which stands for hue, saturation, and luminosity. And in here, we can selectively choose the color that we want to play with. Not only does it allow us to kind of adjust what that color looks like, saturation is the one we're going to really focus on, which is going to make the color just pop. So let's focus on the reds first. So I can take this hue shift and I can, you know, adjust the reds, and you'll notice that it just does the reds. But what I really want to focus on is just making them a little more saturated. I'm going to do about 5%. Just want them to pop. Okay. Then we're going to bump over to the yellow. I want to do the same with the lemons. And then we're going to look at the trees and the grass, the leaves and the grass. And again, we could always, you know, adjust the color of the green. One thing that we got to really focus on too is we've got green in the trees and in the grass, but we also have it in the candle. So we want to, you know, be mindful of that. So we're going to bump this up a little here. I'm going to do the green a little bit more than the other colors. And then I'm focusing on the candle mostly. But I do want to adjust the color of these a bit. Okay. And then we'll bump over to this. We're going to do both the blue colors because sometimes you have to play with it and see where it's pulling. But this is like we could go purple that way. All different fun. But we're going to really increase the saturation a lot on this one. It's going to be our highest one. Just because, again, I want it to be, it's almost, not that this is going to be like a fake looking scene, but I just want it to be very fun and playful. And then we'll tap on that color and see if we get, we're getting a little bit, bump up those colors a little bit there as well. Okay, so that's how we're going to make some selective color adjustments to the photo. And I think that's about where I want to be. So if I go over here and I just toggle off all of those, it takes us back to our original photo. There is some edits that have been applied here as far as the burn and the clone and that kind of stuff. But you can see the shifts being made here and just adding that extra. So here's the curves mask that I did on the label. So that's without and that's with. Just cleans it up a little bit. So if we were going to save this photo specifically to Etsy, I'm going to go to File and we're going to do Export. And we would adjust these pixel dimensions to be 2667. And if I hit enter, that'll automatically adjust this one over here. 2000 pixels because we already have our aspect ratio set. Typically, we're going to want to do a high quality, but we'll watch right here. We've got our file size. It's a really big file size. If I select high quality, it bumps us to under that 1 megabyte. So that's perfect. And then we will export this. And there is our final photo. See you next time.